Hello, I am a little bit behind on where I want to be with this project, so I'm going to multitask while I do this vlog. At the moment what I'm doing is creating little barriers around where I want to put some epoxy to fill in the sap veins and other flaws in the timber. It's primarily on the legs, but on some of the rails as well. Reason for doing this rather than cutting it out entirely is my wife really likes those sort of features in this timber. So she likes knots, she likes sap veins, and that's fine, personal preference type thing. So this is something similar to what you may want to do with reclaimed timber. It might have a bit more character, to put it politely, and there's nothing wrong with that, so long as it doesn't affect the structure. In the case of reclaimed timber, it can be more effort than it's worth at times. In the case of this, honestly, I probably don't even need to do it, but for something that's going to be essentially a display case for board games, I do want to have less places for dust or for things to get caught. So good examples on this leg here, though this will be towards the back and you won't see it. If that was on the front side, your hand could catch it, pull out some of the timber, or a box if you weren't being careful, and you could ruin the box for the game that way. This particular rail is essentially invisible. Actually, this one is invisible and I don't need it at all because it's the wrong size. That one can go over there. So this one's got a nice clear face and not the clearest back. This will be towards the back, so you probably won't see it anyway. But since I'm going to have the epoxy out, I may as well do it all at once type thing, and that way if I change my mind on its orientation, it's not a big deal. So the week that's just gone, I put out the video on this timber, the Tasmanian oak or Vic Ash or whatever you want to call it. I was surprised at just how well received that video was. In terms of effort to engagement rather than effort to reward, a lot of people quite liked it and were discussing it quite a lot, which is fantastic. The surprise is that compared to a project video, that was quite easy to make. It only took a couple of hours to edit, to shoot, to edit, to upload. Uploading took the longest part of that, I think. And it's something that's been on my mind for a while. I have quite a few, as I said, I have quite a few people asking me questions about the timber. There's a couple of posts on Reddit where someone was trying to duplicate someone else's work and they happened to use Messmate, or no, they had it as F17, so what this stuff is. So it's not something I thought, oh cool, people will latch onto this, just something that has been on my mind. So I'll probably do more episodes like that on a irregular basis. Might be once a month. So I'm not sure what to do next. I think what I want to do is go make up some sample boards of finished boards basically, so that we can see the raw look of it as well as the finished look of it, because you know, it's not often you have timber that has no finish on it, so the raw colour doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Because I was planning on it, but I wasn't really thinking it through. Perhaps the video I just did, I didn't think to show off finished pieces of it, but that's okay. So maybe Jarrah I've mentioned on this channel before has an emotional connection for me, and it is quite an interesting timber regardless. But yeah, if you've got suggestions on Australian timbers or similar type of topics that you would like to see, let me know, because I'm happy to take the time to investigate and put something together. And it might be a case of, if I go to a timber store, hardwood dealer, I'll buy a couple of shorts of whatever people want to learn more about, and I can go from there. And if I have to do one trip, that's better than doing multiple trips. So the other thing that I did do this week was make up a little sample board of the blackwood and resin. So the triptych, the blackwood triptych that I was showing off last week, but the timber's still sitting up there because I was waiting for the resin and the dyes to arrive. They've done that. I've made up a very basic sample from some offcuts because the resin is new to me. I typically use West Systems epoxy. It's kind of, well, no, it is expensive for casting in particular. Fantastic adhesive bonding type epoxy, but not as good for casting. And it's not designed for casting as such. It is a building type epoxy, so it's not necessarily as clear. It doesn't have a lot of the properties that make it nicer for casting. So, wanted to see how that would go on a small piece. The actual resin itself, really happy with. It is, well, let's see, Platinum brand epoxy. Bought this off eBay. It's about $70 for 3 litres delivered, which is quite good. It is very thin. Again, can be a bad thing if you're trying to adhere to surfaces, but it's very clear. It's apparently UV stable. It is 2 to 1, so it's pretty easy to mix, but it's 2 to 1 by volume, not by weight. I prefer by weight for smaller stuff. So I probably made up more epoxy than I wanted to for this, because I could have made a small sample, but end of the day, not a big deal because it's pretty inexpensive. So the other thing I was trying out were these dyes, powders, pigments from Just Resin. This is the copper one. It's got a lovely colour to it. What I've discovered is the metal particles in the pigment are quite heavy, so they've tended to sink down, and some of this yuck colouring in the gold, because I've got gold and copper, it was because I kept on trying to mix it up, bring the pigment to the top. On the underside you can see it's a lot more yellow, it's not polished on this side, so I think what I need to do is base coats. I'll probably do a thicker pour, or maybe a 10mm pour of a black resin. So same resin, just with a black pigment, then maybe clear, then gold or copper, then maybe clear, then gold or copper, and sort of build it up that way in 2 or 3mm increments so that it doesn't have far for the resin to fall, or the pigment to fall. I'm happy with the resin itself. I really like how the copper looks more so than the gold, so I'll probably go with the copper. And it picks up a lot of the tones in the blackwood itself. So this week I may actually get to that if I get far enough with the board game storage thing. I've got the melamine to make my big forms all ready to go. So that's pretty exciting. That's it for this one. I've got lots of work to get on with. So hopefully I'll have another update in just a few days' time. Thanks for watching.